All right, welcome back, Questers. It's good to be back, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was gonna say apparently I'm the only one that thinks so.
I
So,
mean, second hesitation
on a
again.
technicality of being back, this isn't really back.
well. Speaking of technicalities, how are you, Jake?
I'm feeling fine.
That's what actually a lot of people don't know. That's what they used to call him in high school is the technicality.
They did, actually.
Mr. Technicality.
Just no Mister, no respect.
Just
Oh,
no respect.
Yeah, it was very low respect.
Technically.
They were like, wow, there's the technicality. And I was like, weird, my parents call me the same thing.
Technically.
So we for those keeping track at home, this is our second record sesh. We recorded 2 months ago, episodes 1 through 7, and we made a lot of adjustments. So hopefully this go around is a lot better for you. But we wanted to record a special bonus episode and give everybody a chance to introduce themselves. At the beginning of production, we had this idea, and I think we talked about it in episode 1, where we wanted to go in raw and not have anybody know anything about anybody else. Turns out, hindsight, that was not the best way to go about it. It was a great idea, but we'll let it ride this time. But now that everybody's kind of gotten to know each other a little bit, then we want to let you guys know everybody's backstory, where they come from. So first, we're going to start with John, who plays Rav Ironoak.
Yep.
Take it away.
Okay, so Low Rumble was the only precursor to the land's upheaval. Birds flying from the treetops as the trees swayed and trembled. Tall woman with jet black hair running from tree to tree, fleeing. In her right hand, she pulled her only son at a frantic pace, tears streaming down her face and the small child's as his mother gripped tightened around his wrist. Why they were being chased and what it was that was so powerful that it was making the ground quake and toppling the trees as it searched for them. The forest was dark even though it was noonday, but no living creature was near or dared making a sound as the commotion moved past. The pair moved recklessly through the underbrush as they tried desperately to lose the unnatural phenomenon between the trees and the underbranches. Their clothes tore from the low-hanging branches, through bushes and brambles and around thorns and briars, tearing at them from all angles. The ground lifting from underneath their feet suddenly as they became weightless. The little boy's heart leapt into his throat as he fell, continuing falling deeper and deeper as the ground seemed to swallow them. The boy awakened later at the sound of men hollering. He was being held tight, by whom he knew not. Many people were running frantically. So dark were the dots of light showing through that it could tell it was dark out. The air was heavy and sunken around them, blackening out everything that was around. The child's head rested in the body of whomever was holding him. Wind blowing across his face is what woke him next. A large man was holding him. Others were carrying his mother. They were moving quietly. Off in the distance, the sounds and cracking and destruction be heard in the way off. A group moving in a secure trench, moving along at a fair pace, meant that their travel was now safe, as woodsmen, miners, and frontiersmen moving to their homes miles away from the destruction. The sun had set, and as they moved now, concealed by the growing darkness, low rumblings is all that could reach them now as they neared the small community that they called home. The boy asking for his mother, though the men took her to a separate house, then they took the boy. He was cleaned and fed as they waited. No one spoke to the boy, and the man who held him came into the small house, kicking off his boots and grabbing a bowl of food for himself, seated himself across the table from the boy. Your mother was pregnant, boy, though I'm sure you knew. A full spoon of stew passed his lips and came out empty. You two were lucky that you fell down the mine shaft as the air return shot you up and landed right where we were working in the quake of the tunnels. The man eyed the child as he continued to eat and speak between mouthfuls. That's the most I can remember. I can't remember anything more from that night. The boy's voice trails off as he pats his sister's head, telling her the story. She's now 16, but has never spoken a word since that day. I retell the story about us and our mother as best I can remember. Pops, the man that had taken us in, looks after us now and takes us into his family. Whether this was his choice or not, I had no idea, though we were treated well enough. Though I was older than his children, we grew up with doing the chores and work that always needed to be done, the same as his children. Cleaning and menial tasks was a daily thing. Since I was no larger than the brothers, I did more physical tasks, which made me a little bit stronger. My sister spent much of her time in the grass and playing in the woods with the animals and the creatures. I took to dropping trees and hauling timber down to town better than my adopted brothers, who ended up mining instead, and bringing out coal and the odd gem from the mountains. The mountains, which grew from the single night that we'd fled, the trees were too changed, now being iron trees than they had been just regular oak trees before. My left eye always watched my sister as I swung my axe from day to day as we grew. Pops grew angry with my sister and I one night that she had brought home a bear cub, innocent enough until the mother bear came in to the playful town looking for the small fluff ball. Our adoptive brothers grew jealous of the relationship with our blood father, my sister and I and our father, and drove a wedge between us. Too many close calls from my sister bringing her friends home ended up getting us moved out of the community. The frontier is all we knew, though we now had to make new lives for ourselves in the forest as we moved out into the wilderness to survive. We found comfort in the environment, and talking to the trees is something that I grew fond of as my sister talked to the animals. I swear the trees started talking back. That's the end of my backstory, guys. So,
Were they talking back?
Quite to tell.
yeah. So that's the whole kickoff to how I started becoming a druid.
Gotcha.
Spending a lot of time in the trees by myself. So, yeah.
So, your sister, is she still around? Is she available?
So that's what initially
not
brought
for
me to
me.
Riverbend. I was looking for my sister. She had disappeared for a while. And walking into a hidden glade, I found a statue of my sister that was identical. I could not find my sister, but all footprints led, to that statue, that it was her. So I came to the conclusion that something was wrong. I needed to go and, find out what had happened.
So I know when we were talking, this glade, that was kind of the safe haven for you guys, right? And so you go back and there she is. And was there anything around the statue?
I honestly, there was a symbol, I believe, was it not?
There was a symbol.
Yeah.
There was a symbol.
And so that's what I've been going off of, and now
That's what's led you to Stoneform Village?
Well, yeah, up to this point, yeah, from Riverbend to all the way up to the village. So that's where we are now.
Gotcha.
Does anybody have any questions?
Are you a druid? Oh gosh.
Full up, man. Yeah.
Pretty sure. No one's really come out and said it. But, trees talk to me. So.
We prefer the term not druid.
We don't call ourselves that.
It's not cool if you do either.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else that you want us to know about you?
No, I think from everything else you guys have gotten, it's pretty clear on everything else.
Okay. All right. Durfee McFadden is sitting to John's left. H couldn't be here.
You blew that.
Yeah, right out of the water. H couldn't
Surprise.
be here today, unfortunately, and so Durfee McFadden is sitting in the studio with us. So welcome.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
You don't have to do it in his voice.
I'm not
if you
going to
don't
do
want.
it. Well,
Spoiler,
I will read
actually
it.
is H.
I'm going to yeah, this is H. I'm actually going to read it in Durfee's voice because it's a lot funnier. It's in Durfee's voice. Anyway, so here we go. Just right off the bat, here's Durfee's background. I says, "Me mum's an elf, pa's a human. That makes me half and half, you know." We lived in a nice cottage in the woods. Well, at least they did. Around the age of 16, I decided that it was time for me to be independent and stop freeloading off the cranky old sacks of bones. So I moved into the trusty shed and back. Well, it ain't much, you know, but it's home. I'm a simple being, really. I like stalking things and observing their habits, and every once in a while I find myself helping those who look like they could use a hand. I've been doing this kind of stuff for 8 years now, and I'm pretty sure that I'm good at it. Maybe I could make a career out of it. Anyway, what brings me here is I need answers. I come home after stalking a deer for 2 weeks, and me shed's been torn to sticks. When I went inside my parents' cottage, all I found was a stunningly accurate statue of me mother, and me father was gone. I waited around for a week for them to come back, but they never did. So I've come to town, like I said, for answers. And that if you listen to the first 7 episodes,
That's a common theme.
that is why stone theory is very much a thing in Durfee's life. As you
No,
can
it's kind of convincing.
as you can kind of tell,
Right.
Durfee's intelligence isn't the best. And
He's got a point there.
I'm going to be trying to do from here on out. I'm going to try to be better at playing out that Durfee's a derp. Durfee the derp.
Yeah, that was another thing that we talked about is how we were playing our characters versus how we wanted to start playing our characters. And so if you see little changes in things, forgive us. I mean, we're still figuring stuff out too. So,
Any questions for Durfee McFadden?
any questions from the fans?
Well, too
Go ahead
bad.
and chime in.
Well, hold on.
Go ahead and say it. Just
Jake.
keep it to yourself.
Jake from Minnesota.
It's a lot of Jakes happening.
Jake from Minnesota wants to know, where'd you get your accent from?
Isn't it obvious? It comes from me mum.
Elf?
Comes from the elf.
There you go, Jake from Minnesota. I hope you're happy with that answer.
Thank you for the question. Any other questions?
No, I think we're good.
None. Okay.
All right.
That's
All
it.
right,
Get
Torvo.
on
Do you
with
have
it.
Torvo? Do you have a last name?
No.
Torvo Gabo.
I was lucky to have Torbo.
Gabo.
No, I don't see
Certain
myself
people can
as
use
a
that
goblin.
term.
Yeah, man. Jeez. Rude.
Respect
What
the
do you
gobos.
identify as if you don't identify as a goblin?
I'm not going to eat out of the trash like other goblins would.
Only some of them.
I thought goblins had higher intellect than that.
Oh.
Some of them enjoy cooking
Zero.
their garbage.
There's a reason why they have iron gut as a part of their race.
That's exactly right.
Give me
Anything
that
can be
stone.
food.
There you are.
Yeah. We do my stuff?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
All right. So Torvo, the goblin, is a monk. He was given away to the monastery at a young age. Basically, his tribe that was up near the mountains of where the monastery was felt that it was more of a blessing to have one of their own every few years to be given up to the monastery. They felt that it gave them some form of prowess or blessing to their village. And I was selected during that year. So I grew up in the monastery, always hot-headed, really hard to control all of my impulses, and that's why I never completely kept ranking up anywhere. I came under the tutelage of Minnie, a sensei.
Can you spell tutelage for us?
Sure.
Can you spell tutelage for us?
Sorry, I'm sorry.
That was kind of a jerk move.
Oh, that's on me. We can edit that.
That's coming against goblins again.
Yeah.
How dare you?
I'm gonna need you to refrain.
Refrain some of that anger.
Yeah. So he, in growing up around it, he showed much potential, but because he couldn't ever completely control his emotions necessarily, or his outburst, that is. And he found himself thinking above some of his contemporaries, but he just couldn't reel that in and have, he wasn't super humble about it, I guess. So,
Couldn't get the knack of turning the other cheek.
yeah, that's kind of a problem. But as he was barely starting to find his place, and he was about to receive more enlightenment, if you will, while he was off on a task for the village, for the monastery, on his way back, it was clear there was something that had gone wrong, and nobody was around for him anymore. And,
Oh, it's so sad.
Here's the world's tiniest violin.
yeah, there was
It's a burger.
many a person in the village that was turned to stone. And then in front of him was all those cool symbols that we've figured out so far, which is where we are right now in the story. But he saw that as he didn't see everyone that was there. So a lot of the upper echelon monks were missing. They weren't all stone, except for the Grand Master. He was in the middle of their dojo, basically, and it looked like he had gone through a struggle before he was turned to stone, in whatever fashion had happened. And Torvo knew enough about his time in the monastery and their study of warfare and dragons and the way that magic flows in this world that he knew something was off, at least. Though he hadn't been able to gain all the secrets. And then I don't know how much I want to share past there, because it's a lot of deep lore stuff that I think would be funner to discover in kind by everybody else. But suffice to say, he left the monastery after discovering a few things, and then he decided that he needed to walk the world, if you will, kung fu style.
Go on walkabout.
Yeah.
So what did you discover? Are you talking like the statues and the symbols that led him to leave, or something else?
Indeed.
Fantastic.
And that's the secret.
Yeah, and that is
Vague.
something, and it's silly that I am being
No, you're fine.
vague in the group here.
it makes
But the
sense.
reason why is that it is deep enough that it affects so many things that he's actually very secretive and protective of what he discovered. And
It's gonna take some prying. Gonna take some prying to get that
until
out.
that really becomes something that really needs to be said, and maybe it never does too. But he decided that if anything, he will either figure stuff out on his own, or he will eventually wander across a few other monasteries that he knew about, but he never really had visited, so he doesn't necessarily know where they are. Or he discovers some of the upper level monks that were not present, and maybe get some answers from them. But there was nobody left alive in the monastery. They were either gone or statues. And it was about almost like a 50-50, maybe a third. So,
If it makes you feel any better, I know where everybody went.
yeah.
So
And then
Spoilers.
one of the big things about it, because of that, as his time then figuring out the world again, he found that he's a little bit more clipped with people around him. While he may have felt like he had a pretty bad temper in the monastery, he finds that he feels a little, not necessarily above others around him, but he clearly sees the world differently than others do, and he gets frustrated when they're not doing the right, like in his worldview, when they're not flowing logically. He gets frustrated.
Such as kicking an ankle that's broken.
Well, but just like how he saw the shortest ends to his means, like, bashing someone's teeth in, because that would be the most rapid way to achieve the goal. It's logical to him.
Is that a short joke?
Yeah, always. Everything is a short joke with Torvo. Anyways,
That's why he thinks that he's higher than people.
right, and because of his time in the monastery too, he was the only goblin there. Funny enough, and so he never really knows necessarily any goblin heritage itself. So he understands he's a goblin, and he understands what goblins are as a race, but he doesn't necessarily.
There's no traditions or heritage there.
Yeah, the monastery is his heritage.
Cool.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
Would you say now that he's kind of out on his own, quote unquote, that because he doesn't have his mentors around to help temper his temper,
Right.
would you say that he kind of goes off kilter a little bit more easily?
Oh, easily.
Skelter.
Easily. Because the only thing that was keeping him in range was people recognizing when his temper was getting excited and then being able to say,
Take a step
"Take a
back,
step, man. Meditate for a bit."
breathe.
And only after action, sometimes he's like, "Nah, that was a bit much."
Hey, Torvo, having a rough time?
Hey, buddy.
But he already
Have a
understands
good
that
berry.
as far as not necessarily strength goes, but as far as combat prowess, he feels that he's above others.
Oh, the vanity of monks, as they say.
Well, and that's the problem is while he should be humble and he recognizes he should be humble about it, he's having a hard time with the displacement of that.
Well, I
Because it's not
remember.
that he's it's not like he is vain about it, but he's recognizing that other people don't have the same like background that he would in it.
I remember when we were talking backstory for your character, that although he spent a lot of time at the monastery, he didn't actually complete the training. And if I remember at one point, I don't know if you decided to go this route, but I remember at one point we were talking that he was sent out to go visit a village or do a task as basically like the initiation part into it.
That was going to be where he was going to rank up.
Yeah, and
So he left to finish that task, and he was coming back excited
Yeah.
that he was finally going to start learning the secrets.
and so he comes back and he is
Yep.
sorely disappointed.
All taken from him.
Yeah.
But part of the secret that I'm hiding, that maybe the listeners will get when I'm not in a group full, when we're not all together, I don't know, we'll see. It explains how he's able to continue learning as a monk.
Yeah, and I think that's cool. I'm glad I'm privy to that.
Yeah.
Straight
And it
up.
is. I
Well,
thought
speaking
it was pretty clever
humility.
myself, if I can say so. But yeah. So there is an actual background that lore-wise explains how he can continue learning as a monk, and it possibly will humble him too.
Yeah, hopefully, because
But as of right now,
What a loose cannon.
he's trying to find his way.
somebody needs to have a talk with Torvo.
I
'cause
just like
he's
the
out of
idea.
control.
I like the idea. I don't think anybody at the table with me understands kung fu. I don't think any of you guys ever watched the show.
Do you have
Fu Panda.
a preferred
right.
stance?
Kung Fu Hustle.
Yes. The stuff that I have learned so that people do understand, because I did not role play it very well,
Mantis.
is that I take the dragon stance, and I am a martial disciple. So
He is the dragon warrior.
I am the dragon warrior.
For would you be opposed to showing everybody who's watching this live maybe how you go into Dragon Stance?
Oh yeah, no problem. 1 second.
This
Let
How
the
was
record
that?
show.
amazing.
Yeah.
Let the record show that.
He did nothing. I'm just kidding.
Come on, guys.
No.
He
Get
shifted
him.
in his chair.
Let's look at the record. Can we have our stenog bring that back?
That's what I'm saying, man.
was that
it
right
can't
there?
generally be comprehended.
Let's get this clear. Based off his
By the
demonstration,
Luddites.
I'm not too confident in his abilities to protect me.
Let's put it this way: there's a reason he didn't start his training.
Yeah, there's a reason why my deception's had like a 20.
There's a reason some of us are barbarians and others
You know what I
are
think
not.
of, and I might be giving way to something if this character dies and I make a new one, but it makes me think of like a rogue that learns some magical knacks and but has a high deception and is able to use sleight of hand throughout the whole campaign to make
If he
people believe they're a
sings, that's called
sorcerer.
a bard.
And then finally, towards the end, somebody realizes that don't even have magical prowess, but the whole time they've been deceived. And they're like, hey guys, I gotta be real with you. I really can't cast Fireball right now. And they're like, wait, what are you talking about?
We needed this right now.
I love the idea
lied.
of like you going in like situation like this where you're talking, or I mean, your character obviously wouldn't, but let's say they would, where it's like, yeah, I know dragon stance, and it's like, let's see it, and you do something like just super like derpy,
like
and they're
a middle
I don't know."
school
Well,
middle
yeah,
school fighting stance.
there's a reason you don't know it because you're not a monk. All right, I am, and I'm telling you that's what it is.
Well, that's
Deception,
what I told them.
nat 20.
That's what I told them when I waved my hands in the air and they were all acting so cheeky. That's how I said it that way. It was.
This is what.
Well,
it is.
that's because you didn't grow up in a monastery, and so you don't really understand the
get
true
it.
power of what I just did. I was aligning my chakras.
So he says.
Or like if you failed the deception roll, then you just like throw off some BS. Well, the planets weren't aligned exactly. For that. But I'm good.
Venus isn't in line with Jupiter, and
But on a for real level, no, don't besmirch Torvo that way. That wouldn't be cool.
Well, that's it.
I'm gonna need that you respect him.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
All right. GM is now gone.
Any other questions?
we killed
or-
the DM guys.
You won. You beat Pathfinder.
That's what it is. That's all.
Wow, you beat Pathfinder. I like that.
Level 1.
Level 1.
You are a god. Oh, and he's a dragon worshiper.
Nice.
I don't know how many other people are, but he's not a normal type of dragon worshiper like what you would see from the dichotomy of either dragon worshippers or shoot, I'm forgetting the name. The people who believe in the pantheon.
The other guys.
The other ones.
The other ones.
Pull out the backstory.
Yeah, I know everybody's like got to pull their papers up. So
Does everybody remember what they are?
while he is a dragon worshiper, he understands what it means to be a dragon worshiper.
Aragons.
There we go, Tarragons. He is not. He would not be in the same form of what others would be, because he has a deeper understanding of what dragons truly are, and that only comes from the monastery.
So in a way, he's a druid because he's not in the same form as everyone else.
Yeah, sure, man. He takes dragon shape all the time. Though it's more like a fairy dragon. Anyways, all right.
Kind of a moose
Yeah.
shoe.
Were you thinking
And if I,
Tarragons and partisans?
then I just keep going deeper
Yeah.
and deeper into this and just start making him sound like a
We gotta
god.
have a little.
Oh yeah, no. And Torvo, he also.
We gotta remember that every time that you go form of a dragon, and we'll
Yeah.
do a
There you
little
go.
twinkling.
Dragon
fairy.
form!
Makes me think of the Wonder Twins. Wonder Twins power activate. All right. There you go. Sorry, I really
John-
took the show there. Reed, go ahead.
Well, John's making devil horns at me.
Oh,
Do you understand why?
I think so.
Because,
Tatanka.
Because you're mad.
well, you and I discussed this privately before with a little bit of extra in the backstory there.
Yeah, you're welcome to share.
Would you be okay with me sharing that?
I actually don't know what you're referring to, so how about you say it and we can delete it if we need to.
Alright. So, Rav.
You'll know. The audience will
the whole point
know.
why I went into that backstory like that was his mom and him were being chased by dragons, right? Even though there's not a lot around. And the reason for that is he doesn't know it, but he is inherently also a dragon.
oh,
That's right, I remember that
he's
now.
got dragon blood, huh?
Yeah.
Too much revealed.
Druid.
So,
Form
So he's
of
not really
dragon.
human, huh?
well, he's
Half
human
dragon.
form. Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Hey, there's no dragonborns in Pathfinder.
there's a lot there.
Yeah.
That's some deep story, man.
yeah.
I don't know.
It's deeper than mine.
I'm keeping mine to myself.
I'm an open book.
I'm leaving the rest open for
I think
the
Mordax.
DM to
No.
change as far as
He's
why
got
we're
the
being
blood
hunted.
from blood transfusions,
No,
actually.
wait.
But
So,
Nice.
there is a reason why I
I'm
have
dragon
innate
positive.
magic.
Sure, I mean, man, if we know the history of the world, I
yeah.
don't know.
Dragon negative.
I'm about to get some dragon blood transfusions. Yeah, tap that vein, baby.
D positive and D negative.
Yeah, you. Yo, dog, I'm always D positive. All right. All right.
One more introduction.
Getting a little risque over here.
Mordax. Do you have a last name, Mordax?
I have no last name. No, the axe. I mean,
Oh yeah, Mordax the Axe.
Yeah.
That's more of a title.
Mordax the
I
Axe.
forgot about that.
Mordax the axe.
I love that. is one of my favorite things from this little group. Mordax the Axe.
Here's a question for the rest of y'all here. What do you think my backstory is? Me
Can
being
I give it a shot?
No, you know.
Could I go for it?
Go for it.
Hold me back. That's it.
Oh, no.
That's all he sent me his backstory. That's all it says.
It says
You
hold
were-
me back.
You were
Hold
born
me back.
enraged, and you just haven't stopped.
Somewhat.
He's an
I've
angry.
got no guess.
No guess this. Okay. Well, it's probably you probably don't understand. You probably have no idea.
I'm gonna say goblin.
Hey, man, good job.
Yeah, I'm going
Got
to take
it.
the shot at none of us have an idea. Yeah.
Well, whatever you were thinking, it's wrong. So, before I was Mordax the Axe, I was Reef the Thief. I was
Wow.
so I was
Still in reefer?
no, I was in a thieves guild for quite a little bit.
Those are his dark days.
Those were my dark days. No, I was really good. I was actually a really good thief, and one day, our whole entire guild kind of broke apart there, where someone betrayed us. We don't know who, but it all ended up happening when our thieves, my mentor, I guess, in a way, and just our thieves guild leader there, he was turned to stone, and then everything, just all heaven broke loose. That's what we put on, or how I say it. All heaven broke loose, and so then, at that point, I couldn't trust a thief again. Everything just became really hard and for me to accept thieves. So then I learned a little bit more about law and became more of a citizen to be a thief catcher. To use those skills, to use the skills of what I had as a thief to be a thief catcher. And I realized that I needed muscles for that. Became myself a nice barbarian, and the rage inside me came out. And then
Too much
You're like a
pre-workout.
stacked goblin.
too much pre-workout.
I just,
something
yeah.
like that.
I love the idea that you're just super stacked, like Jack.
That really.
And you're like 3.5 feet tall.
But I did learn some more. I have the charisma skills. I can talk with people. I have a legal background. I do know
Wow.
Did
law.
pass the bar.
What I need you to
Pass the
do,
bar.
what I need you to do now is kick in a door and say, "Goblin PD."
I should.
Open it up! FBI!
Get on the ground. No.
After that bust, then he's kind of hanging out by a squad car and reaches into the back and pulls out a creatine shake. Pounds 2 of those.
Let's go to work, guys.
Yeah.
No, but that was basically my background on that. Originally I had a whole background where before we switched over to Pathfinder, that was my background was just gonna be a thief catcher, and I was gonna be a rogue, and that's how it was. But then we switched over to Pathfinder, and me being the random person that I went completely random.
Boy, that was a mistake.
I don't think so. I think it's a happy little accident. I think is what we come up with here. So, but no, that's basically my backstory. Is the reason why. And now I'm still trying to figure out where those thieves are, the rest of the guild, and figure
Those
out
pesky thieves.
who did what. With who turned my mentor into stone. Pretty much at that point. So
Stone theory. Mason theory.
Stone.
It's just a placeholder.
it's just a place till he comes back.
You sound like a cop, man.
I sound like a cop.
You sound like a cop.
Yo, man.
He's a
Are
nerd.
you a cop? Are you a cop?
No, he's cool. He's cool.
You have to tell me if you are.
Legally, you have to.
Legally, you have to, man.
Sure don't.
Any questions for Mordax the Axe?
Formerly known as Reef the Thief.
So you're saying if I forage some herbs and use said herbs,
I don't know, man. We've been shoving mushroom paste in people's eyes.
I've been okay with it so far.
It has worked.
Yeah, surprisingly well.
Yeah, a lot of things are going to change.
Now that you know.
Turns out there's a thick rule book for this game.
Yeah,
So
weird, right? Somebody better be rolling some medicine checks.
I'm not letting anything slide this time.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Hey, can we get some more good berries over here?
Right?
Nope.
We make good
I
berries.
know we can.
We figured out we can make
I
them.
love that
On the
first episode.
slide.
Here, everyone have a good berry.
Good luck
berries for
finding a
all.
berry in a cavern.
Hey, too bad. I'm a forager.
Yeah, we brought berries in, bro.
Here's,
Yeah, we brought them in with us.
stone berry.
Freshly picked still. We put them
Yeah.
in.
I can carve
Check
a
out
berry
these
out of
stone
stone.
berries.
No, it's cool. They identify as berries.
I'll tell you what,
In any case.
Those are
Toro's
fossilized.
got berries for everyone.
Those are
Berries for
those are
days.
fossilized dwarf
I gotta
turds.
stop.
Fossilized berries,
anything can become food.
as they say.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so that's it. Any last parting thoughts before we sign off for this little bonus episode?
If you guys have questions, let us know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Send
Alright,
us
ready?
a.
Doesn't mean we're gonna answer them.
Jake again from Minnesota.
Is he our only viewer right now?
Yeah. He's the only one with the live feed. I'm not sure how he's doing it.
It's kind of creepy, honestly. They really wish you would stop.
All right.
You're infringing
Okay.
on my rights.
Okay.
So that's that, and I guess D5 questing will catch you on the other side of.
Awkward sign off.
D5 on 3.
Peace.
1, 2, 3. D5.
Yeah, the questing.
For kids.
Love that, gentlemen.
D5.